Wednesday night edition of the NBA podcast.
It's Mike Klinzing here with your co-host and my co-host, Jason Sunkel. We have not been in good stead for the last 2 weeks. So I have been ill. I was ill last week. I could not pull off, despite my desperate need and want to do an NBA episode. I could not pull it off. And then last night we were all set to go, and I texted Jason about, I don't know what, hour
10.
before we were supposed to go. And I just said, man, I don't think I can make it. And then I went to the doctor today and found out that I've got a bout of bronchitis, but we already cranked out 2 pods tonight. So we are coming back hard for, I'm going to call it a, what's
mini-sode, a mini-sode.
And intense, but we're going to bring the intensity for this 30-minute episode. So we're ready. We haven't talked in 2 weeks.
We haven't talked in 2 weeks. We didn't talk last week. The week before we were a day late and $1 short because I was sick. But I was only sick for like 2 days. Mike's been.
I'm going on like 9 or 10 now. So.
Yeah. So we apologize to our loyal listeners for our lack of NBA content, but we're here to cure of those ills right now, and we're gonna start. I feel like we have to start with LeBron James getting to 40,000 points, Mike. I mean, we knew it was gonna happen. We knew when it was gonna happen. Once it got to, it was going to happen at some point this season. As long as he didn't get hurt, he's getting to 40,000, and here he is. He's at 40,000 points. And I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, there's no one that's my dad. My dad was came at me with. My dad has become because he's retired. What he thinks is an NBA savant, and he thinks he knows NBA. And he doesn't.
Okay.
He does not listen to the podcast, so I can bash him all I want on here. But he goes. Did you know Steph Curry and all his amazing 3-point shooting? Do you know how many career points he has? Mike, if you had to give a guess, how many? LeBron's at 40,000. What do you think Steph's at approximately?
So I heard a discussion around. I think it was on the Hoop Collective, where they were talking about who do they think can get to, obviously not 40,000 because it's insane, but who they thought could get to 30,000. And Steph, they all felt like he could get to 30,000. I want to say he's around 25.
He's at 20. He's at 24, Mike. He's at 24,000. Okay. So when my dad hit me with that, and I was like, I'll be honest with you, Mike, I was like, holy, like, how does my dad's giving me this info ahead of me? Like, I did not realize that. And
maybe we got to bring your dad on for trivia.
No.
Some trivia questions. You're not putting the invite out.
No, my dad, much like, although he has a lot of agreements with us. His statement 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago was, "Why is Dean Wade playing?" And then last night, Dean Wade saved us. So we can't completely trust my dad. But when he hit me with that the other day, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, there's nothing else to say. LeBron, 40,000 points. No one's ever, especially in this day and age with rest and everything, there's no one's ever sniffing 40,000. I mean,
well, you can't never say never, because look, I'm sure that if we go back to 1985 when Kareem retired, nobody saw that coming either.
No.
But
Mike, I mean, come on, it's pretty close. It's pretty close to untouchable. As Mike's bronchitis has gotten the best of him for a second there, but he's and now I've made him laugh, so I've made it worse again. But the bottom line is this: like, I just don't think statistically. I think the most impressive thing was that text I sent, that tweet I sent you with about the stats, and I read it to my dad, and he was blown away by it.
So you're talking about the 110 plus points and over 12.
Yeah. So here, no. This one, LeBron James is the first NBA player to score 40,000 points. 10,000 points. He got his first 10,000 points in 368 games. He got his next 10,000 points in 358 games. He got his next 10,000 points in 381 games, and he get his last 10,000 points in 368. He got his first 10,000 and his last 10,000 in the same number of games. And your response to me was metronome. And I couldn't have said it better myself. It's simply amazing when you look at it and you like just statistically how consistent he has been his whole career. It's just mind blowing. Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, The other one that I was referring to that you sent me was the fact that he has scored 10 plus points in 1,200 consecutive regular season games, and only 6 other players have scored 10 plus points in over 1,200 games throughout their entire careers. So, I mean, you're just talking about a guy who is a model of consistency in terms of what he puts up. And look, I feel like a broken record when we talk about LeBron, in that his career has been an incredible career. It's probably, when you factor in the totality of everything that LeBron has done on and off the floor, and you juxtapose that with the media hype that accompanied him on his way into his professional career, I think you can honestly say that there has been no athlete in any sport that has had the spotlight on them from the time they were 14 years old and has lived up to every single possible accolade, hype, whatever you want to say. There's nobody that's done what he's done anywhere in the history of sport. And it's just incredible. And look, you're never going to convince me, no matter what, that he's the greatest basketball player of all time, because I was there for Michael Jordan, and I'll never be able to buy that. But LeBron's career and what he's done is absolutely, absolutely incredible. The level of consistency that he's demonstrated throughout his career and how good he still is at age 39 is just, it's insane.
I got a new one. I got a new one for you, Mike, that I just saw.
Okay.
Did you know LeBron has never finished with 27, 7, and 7 in a single game?
No.
His career stat line, he's never finished with 27, 7, and 7.
I heard that at some point, not recently, but
ESPN posted it.
I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago at some point I heard that particular stat. But yeah,
that's pretty cool too. I like that one. That's pretty cool.
It's super interesting. I mean, kudos to LeBron.
An interesting fact on the other side of the spectrum, but over our favorite topics of conversation, James Harden. Mike, did you know that he has made more free throws in his career than field goals?
No, I did not know that. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. It is. That's impressive. Look, I've said this before, and you can say whatever you want. Like, no one enjoys James Harden. I got to go let my dog out, man. Sorry. The dog is barking. I'll be back. I'll be back, YouTubers.
So during this brief intermission, I'm just going to talk. I'm going to vamp for a minute or two to talk about my Olmsted Falls Bulldogs. I coach the middle school level, for those of you that do not know. But the Olmsted Falls girls basketball team is made it to the Elite Eight in the state of Ohio, Division I. Last year, they made it to the finals. They lost in the finals in a really competitive game. They graduated 2 Division I players and were put in a position to have to try to give it a run with a slightly reloaded roster, but everyone else, 3 key players graduated, 2 Division I players, and then 6th or 7th person off the bench, 6th, 7th woman. And Coach Eaton's done a wonderful job retooling the roster. And they've made it to the Elite Eight. They beat a team they beat last year in a closer game last year. They ended up winning Fremont Ross tonight by 20 points. And then the game after them, it was looking like they were going to play Anthony Wayne, who was the number 1 seed in their district seeding. Lost to Massillon Jackson tonight. So a little upset special from Massillon Jackson. So Olmsted Falls plays Massillon Jackson in the Elite Eight game on Saturday at 1 p.m. For Olmsted Falls to have a chance to return to Dayton for the 2nd year in a row. I don't believe they'd ever been to Dayton before last year, at least not in recent memory. And to have a chance to go 2 years in a row would be pretty amazing. and then we'll see what happens on Saturday. I'm pretty excited, pretty pumped. And I know other local teams. Mags is still in it. Magnificat, that is. Yeah, so we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Pulling for the Dogs to come away with the victory on Saturday, and then hopefully get another trip to Dayton. That'd be great. I know Mike's son Cal's team plays tomorrow in their district. I think it's district finals game or district semis. I can't remember. I think it's district finals against Hoban, defending state champ. Be fun to check that game out tomorrow night. They play at 7:00 at Elyria Catholic. Yeah, so that's as much high school sports scene as I got right now. But it'll be definitely interesting to see if Olmsted Falls can repeat and return with the roster that they have. And just Coach Eaton's just done a heck of a job coaching them up. The girls have done a tremendous job just continuing to learn, continuing to grow. They won the SWC for the 6th year in a row. It's the conference they're in. Just pretty impressive. And yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. And now Mike's back, so I can stop talking about Northeast Ohio hoops. I just gave a whole dissertation about Olmsted Falls, and then I talked a little bit about Strongsel's game tomorrow night. Is it district finals game, Mike, or is it district semis?
Semis.
Semis. Okay, so I said district. I couldn't remember if it was district semis or district finals. So there you go. So I gave our listeners a little Northeast Ohio hoops on.
Nice. All right. Well, we were talking some James Harden. So you had just shared with me the fact that Harden has more free throws than he does field goals. Look, I think when you start talking about James Harden, no one enjoys the James Harden foul hunting. But I've said it before on the podcast that I think the ability to draw fouls is an underrated skill. And there are some guys who just are good at it, and there are some other guys who just aren't. And if you're a player that's good at being able to draw fouls, that is a huge weapon to have in your bag. And Harden obviously has it. And clearly at some point it's gone a little overboard. And we've all seen plenty of highlights. You just sent me one within the last day or two of him not getting touched and still trying to sell a foul call. And there's been plenty of points in his career where he's gotten to the line where he probably hasn't gotten fouled. And like I said, nobody necessarily enjoys watching that or wants that to be a part of the game. But the fact is that that's a skill that if you have, it makes you a better offensive player. No question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, ooh, man, the Lakers were up by 19 early in the game, and the Sacramento has gone on a 54-20 run to end the first half. I don't know what the score is now, but the Lakers were up
57.
The Lakers were up 19, and now they're down 15. That's a 34-point swing, Mike.
That's a pretty big run within the midst of one half. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Fox has 20 points. Monk has 19. It's pretty crazy. I just saw the tweet come through, so I just wanted
big game for those two teams, really. I mean, that's a huge game.
I mean, the Lakers are floundering, man. They're floundering. I know we just talked about LeBron, and I just don't know what they can do at this point, right? Like they're luckily for them, they're going to be there's no way they fall out because they're too many. They're 6 games clear of the 11 seed. There's just no way they're going to fall that far out. But
no, the 10 teams that are in the Western Conference playoffs play in right now are going to be the 10 teams. I mean, there's no way Utah is 5.5 games behind the Warriors right now. And there's no way that Utah is going to win enough games or Golden State and the Lakers are going to lose enough games to bring Utah or Houston back into that mix. I think it comes down to, look, everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but there's a lot of talk depending on what you listen to and what you read. There's a lot of talk that the Lakers and the Warriors are at least moderately dangerous trying to play some of those top seeds, especially I think people feel like Minnesota and Oklahoma City because of the nature of they're two teams that they're inexperienced, haven't been anywhere together as a team. Minnesota's maybe not as young as Oklahoma City, but they're both relatively young teams, and certainly young in terms of experience, that people look at those teams and think they're vulnerable and that the Lakers and Warriors could beat them. And I guess if I'm Minnesota and Oklahoma City, I'm not sure how thrilled I am that I could be looking at playing against LeBron in a playoff series, or Steph Curry in a playoff series for my first round as a 1 or 2 seed. But man, I find it hard to believe that either the Lakers or the Warriors could put it together enough to beat a team that's been at the top of their conference. Like, I know it happens sometimes, and I know that
Pelicans,
when it happens,
right?
sometimes
the Pelicans.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it can be an anomaly, right? I mean, you think back, the most famous one is Denver was the 8th seed and beat Seattle in like 1993 with Dikembe Mutombo. And it can happen, but
So
in
I
the
guess
NBA, usually it's like the best team usually wins.
yeah. Okay.
Is the bottom line.
So I guess I know we kind of we really are setting ourselves for a hard out. So the main thing we were going to talk about was the top of the Western Conference. So I have a question for you, Mike.
Okay.
If Minnesota somehow ends up with the number 1 seed, they get the 1 seed. Are you saying you're saying with confidence that they will beat the Lakers? Because Minnesota's the team. If they were to
look
seed and they
think
to the Warriors, that would be the team that would be the most. That would be the team that would be the beatable one, in my opinion.
So here's what I would say: of the top 4 in the West, the team that I would think would be most likely to lose a first round series of those 4 to me is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And there's a couple reasons for that. I think one, if you look at what they have, so defensively, they're the number 1 defensive team in the league. Offensively, they're, I don't know where they are, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there offensively. And I've been on record as saying I'm not a huge Karl Anthony Towns guy. I feel like he's almost like he's a good stats, bad team guy that when push comes to shove, I'm not sure how much you can depend on him. And then when you look at, okay, so then Anthony Edwards has clearly become his team, and Edwards had a really good year, but history would tell you again that you got to have, in a playoff series, you got to have the best guy in order to win any playoff series. And you start looking up and down teams 1 through 10. And I mean, look, Anthony Edwards is really good. Is he better than the best player on the Warriors? No. Is he better than the best player on the Lakers? No. Is he better than the best player on the Mavericks? No. Is he better than the best player on Sacramento? It's probably close. You could probably make an argument back and forth depending on what you like between De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards. Is he better than the best player on
Anthony
Phoenix?
Edwards.
Yeah, it's probably, but it's close. I mean,
Phoenix,
it's not like
Phoenix, no.
Right. New Orleans, probably.
Hey, real quick. Zion's in. Let's make. You and I are going to personally. Yes. We're going to personally vote for him millions of times next year.
Yeah, so just that he gets in. So he get in the dunk contest.
Yes,
yeah,
we're making it happen.
I'm with you.
NBA executives. You want to save the dunk contest. I don't. If he doesn't get voted in, and he's on the bubble to being in the All-Star game, you make it happen so that he gets in the dunk contest. Because then what we get is we get Zion, then you get Ja. Yes, I'm bringing Ja in. Let's go. Zion and Ja in a dunk contest, and then you get 2 other random guys. You got to bring the defending champ back again. Mac McClung. How fantastic! Mac McClung beats Zion Williamson and Ja Morant in a dunk contest. Let's go.
Look, it would be awesome. It'd be awesome to see. It would be great to see Zion in the dunk contest. So I guess I'd say Anthony Edwards probably better than any player on the Pelicans, but again, I don't know if I'd say that's a no-brainer, slam dunk, automatic that he's better. Zion, by the way, 51 games so far this year, so he's creeping up. He obviously isn't better. I mean, Anthony Edwards is not better than the best player on the Clippers. He's not better than Kawhi. He's not better than Jokic. He's not better than Shea. So you're looking at one or two series that teams that they could theoretically play at some point in the Western Conference playoffs where they might have the best player on the floor. And that's usually not a tremendous recipe for success. Now, on the other hand, the fact that you have the number one defense, that's clearly why they're at the top of the league, because when you are that type of defensive team, you give yourself a chance to win every single night. And I still think that when you look at Minnesota and you look at what they do down the stretch of big games offensively, I mean, we know what Gobert is offensively. Towns has a history of, let's just say, poor decision-making in big moments. And Anthony Edwards is 22 years old and still trying to figure it out. And I would say has a semi-reliable jump shot, which in clutch moments, it's nice to have a reliable jumper to go with the athleticism and the ability to get to the rim. And so, look, I think Minnesota, they're big, they're physical, they can defend. They're not going to be a fun series for anybody to play against, but I just wonder offensively when you start talking about going against some of these other teams, whether or not they can do it. Now, the question is, let's say it was Minnesota and they're playing the Lakers or they're playing the Warriors. I don't think it's a slam dunk that Minnesota beats those teams, but I just don't think the Lakers and Warriors, I just don't think those teams are good. I mean, at a certain point, you are what you are. And I know you can make the case, they're not that far behind and this or that. And LeBron and AD and the playoff experience and Clay, Draymond and Steph. And I mean, maybe, but at a certain point, I think you are who you are. So I don't expect Minnesota to win the Western Conference to get to the finals, but if they finish first or second in the conference, I would be very surprised if they lost to one of those bottom feeding teams. I just don't see it.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask. So who do you think's going to end up with the 1 seed, Mike?
Denver.
You think Denver cares? They lost the Suns last night.
I think they care. I think if you're Denver, this goes back to my theory, kind of same way you and I have had these conversations with the Cavs, right? Where I get that, okay, maybe you don't have to care. Maybe you shouldn't care. Maybe you're like, we won the title last year. But Denver lost one game in the playoffs last year at home. And if you're looking at what are the best home court advantages in the league historically, Denver, because of the altitude, whether that's psychological or whether it's physical, there's clearly something to that. If I'm Denver, and it's not like I'm 8 games behind right now and I got to go undefeated the rest of the way. I just have to play well. They're a game behind right now. And to me, I don't know. I just don't understand why, if you're Denver, why you wouldn't want to fight hard to try to get that number 1 seed.
Okay.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it. I mean, I just think that, throwing away games to rest guys. And look, I know it's probably more important for you to be healthy, but it still comes down to the bottom line is like, play it out, man, and play hard and try to get every advantage that you possibly can. I mean, there's very few things that are worth necessarily playing for. To me, if you could get the number 1 seed and be able to be at home for 4 out of 7 games for 3 straight series, that's an advantage that I would want if I could get it within reason. And who knows, maybe behind the scenes, the discussions, it doesn't seem reasonable. But to me, I always feel like you should try to play it out and try to win as many games as you can and try to secure home court advantage if you can get it. And I think the teams that don't do that, I think a lot of times it comes back to bite them.
Okay.
I expect Denver to finish 1. Honestly, I think I'd probably pick Oklahoma City to finish 2, Timberwolves 3, and the Clippers 4 is probably that's probably where I'd end up.
Okay. I'm I'm gonna say Minnesota is gonna end there just because their defense is so good. I feel we're gonna look back on this Mike season with Minnesota, the number 1 seed, because of their defense fondly, like we look back at the Atlanta Hawks season of finishing in first place with that offensive year, which you know which one I'm talking about, right?
The 4 All-Star year.
Yeah, the joke. What a joke.
So, well, here's the thing, right? It goes back to the conversation that we just had 5 minutes ago, where, look, Minnesota can be a great regular season team, and they're a great regular season team because they have a great defense, and Towns and Edwards are super talented guys who can score and do things. But when I look at that team, I don't see them being built for being able to score offensively in the playoffs when other teams' defenses are dialed up and dialed in.
Well, that's why I'm saying we're going to look back at this as the Atlanta Hawks team. They
it's
just
an anomaly, right? Yeah,
I
get it. No, I get the analogy. It makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense.
Man, I'm making lots of sense tonight. That's crazy.
You are. Good work. No, you're doing a bang up job.
I'm focused, Mike.
You are focused. You are very focused. All right. So then you got 5 and 6. You got the Pelicans and Suns. I don't necessarily see a reason why either one of those teams would fall out. I know Phoenix is continuing to deal with whatever weird injuries and those guys not being.
How long is Booker out? I have not seen anything on like how long he's going to be out.
I don't know. I don't think they expect him to miss a ton of time, but I'm thinking he's out a week or two. I just look. It's hard to trust that Phoenix team in any meaningful way for a stretch of the regular season, and certainly not for 2 months of playoff basketball. I just don't see how Phoenix survives that. Now, you look below them, and Sacramento and Dallas are both 5-5 in their last 10. Dallas, I think, that loss to the Cavs really hurt them because it was kind of sandwiched around a couple other tough games, and they ended up losing. And so despite the fact that Luka and Kyrie have been healthy and playing well and playing together, they just dropped some games that I'm sure they were trying and hoping that they were going to win. And so now they're down. They're only a game, or I guess a half game, ahead of the Lakers. But that could be, I mean, you look at the play-in right now, and it could be a really interesting, I mean, let's put it this way. There's going to be 4
competent,
interesting teams, no matter what combination of those bottom 6 teams, no matter what combination of New Orleans, Phoenix, Sacramento, Dallas, the Lakers, and the Warriors, no matter what combination ends up in the play-in, you're going to have some really interesting games with a lot of things on the line when it comes to these teams playing, right? I mean, we'll see what happens, but it should be fun. It should be a fun end to the season in the Western Conference because I think there's going to be a lot of things up in the air. I mean, you look at Golden State in 10th is only 4 games out from the Pelicans. And I think overall, and this speaks to the league and kind of where it's at, yeah, we still have some bottom feeding teams, but you look at the 10 teams in the Western Conference, I think all those teams, if you're going to play at any of those places, you're probably not feeling too good as the road team playing against any of those teams. And then you look over on the East is a little bit more questionable, where, by the way, the Orlando Magic is currently sitting in 4th, which is crazy to me. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of nuts that the Magic have creeped back up there, but it's also like the top of the Eastern Conference, other than the Bucks, it's kind of been scuffling a little bit. And so that's allowed Orlando, who's 8-2 in their last 10, to creep back up there, and Milwaukee continuing to creep up there. They were down to the Warriors. They're still, looks like they're going to lose tonight because they're down 16 and are in the 4th quarter against the Warriors. So Bucks are probably going to lose tonight, but it's just, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's going to be an interesting end to the season as we head towards the playoffs.
Yep. Anything else, Mike?
You want to hit on? No, I don't. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
We didn't. I don't want to talk about them, so we're not going to talk about the Cavs, Mike. We're just not going to do it. We didn't say anything about the Cavs tonight. I don't really want to dwell on it, Mike.
Jekyll and
listen,
Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde
Jekyll
is
and
all
Hyde.
I'll say. Jekyll and Hyde.
I mean, they were down 20 last night, and Dean Wayne happens. I by the way, Mike, I didn't even text you this. I didn't see it either because I turned it off. They were down 22 points. I turned it off. I was like, I'm not watching this. And then my dad texted me and goes, my dad goes, man, the Cavs did all this work to come back, and Darius Garland turns the ball over 2 straight possessions. And I was like, what do you mean they did all this work to come back? And I flipped the game on. I literally turned it on and saw Dean Wade slam and to take the lead.
All right. See, I didn't see that play. I turned it on and saw the replay. They were replaying the Tatum phantom foul, which, by the way, I'm glad they got that call right. But I've seen some egregious calls that I thought were painfully obvious that didn't get overturned or didn't get changed. And I thought for sure, end of the game, oh man, they're gonna uphold that foul call and Tatum's gonna go to the line. That's really the outcome that I thought it was gonna get. And
listen, no, Mike,
happen.
They weren't gonna do that because Travis Kelce was at the game and Swifty Nation was behind the Cavs last night on the Twitter.
That's what it all was, huh?
Swifty Nation was behind the Cavs, and they didn't want to get all the Swifty fans upset because of a bad call.
I understand. Well,
so I'm going to go with
it. All worked out.
I was talking to my dad today, and I did say one other thing to my dad today. Is like, imagine this: Cleveland Cavaliers Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift walk into Quicken Loans Arena or Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse to take in Game 7 or game.
Okay.
Come on.
We'll
How amazing would that be? How amazing would that be?
It would be pretty cool. I mean, what's weird is that, like, I mean, yeah, whatever with the Kelce brothers, man. I mean, I'm happy for the 2 dudes and whatever. Cleveland seems to love them all, but whatever. Okay, so in the Eastern Conference, this is my last question, and then let's cut it off here. In the Eastern Conference, what teams can you legitimately see making it to the NBA Finals? So let's start from the bottom of the standings right now. I mean, not obviously the very bottom.
Washington Wizards?
No. I don't.
Did you? Hey, by the way, Worldwide Wob has been. They're not calling. He's not calling them the Washington Wizards anymore. He calls them the Washington Generals.
Oh, okay. Washington Generals, nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah, either Bontemps or McMahon has been calling them the Lizards because they don't have any wins in February or March. So
they were winning tonight and they lost. They were winning at one point tonight and they lost.
They also said, what's interesting is quirk in the schedule. So they've lost 16 in a row, right?
Yeah.
And Detroit set the record this year with 28. So do you know who would be their 20? It's either their 29th or 28th game in the streak.
Detroit
Pistons. The Detroit Pistons. That could be a huge game, huge NBA game if it comes down to Washington has to win to avoid becoming the all-time losingest team, and they're playing the all-time losingest team. The actual team, not just the franchise, but the actual team that already set the record. Okay, Atlanta Hawks. Can you see the Atlanta Hawks making the NBA Finals?
No.
The Chicago Bulls.
No.
The Indiana Pacers.
No.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Not because I know because Embiid. I just can't. I can't get my head.
Even with Embiid. That's
I'm just saying I don't. Okay.
Even with Embiid, it's a hard no.
Okay.
Miami.
I'm gonna say yes because it's Miami.
I'm gonna say yes, even though it goes against, it flies in the face of everything that I just said about the Western Conference. That kind of, you are who you are, and your record is what you say, what is what it is, and reflects who you are. But Miami seems to defy that year after year. So I can see Miami. The New York Knicks?
No.
The Orlando Magic?
No.
The Cleveland Cavaliers?
I want to say yes, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. This team's way too inconsistent, and they got some stuff to figure out.
And yes, yeah, both Bucks and Celtics are both yes. So it's the Celtics, it's the Bucks, and the Miami Heat.
I think I agree. I mean, I think that despite the fact that I think the Cavs record and their point differential and what what they've done at various points in the season would lead you to believe that they could do it. I don't see how.
The only thing I
I
will
don't
say
see how
about
the
the
Cavs.
Cavs, Mike, I'm looking at this, and this is not something I would have known. Did you know we have the best record away from home in the Eastern Conference?
I did know that.
And like, so that says something, you know, like that means something because, you know, we are going to have to play and win games on the road. Now, it's not like it's overwhelmingly and we have the second best record in the NBA behind Minnesota. They're one game ahead of us. That's the only thing I will say.
It's just they're in a prove it situation, right? I mean, I feel like as a fan of this Cleveland Cavaliers team, it reminds me a lot of being a Cleveland Browns fan. It's like you can talk about it all you want and this and that, and you can have a great regular season, but ultimately you still have to do it when it counts.
It'd be really great to have a guy named LeBron on your team right now.
Would it?
You don't think LeBron makes this team a championship team? In the 3 spot? Come on, Mike. Get out of here.
I don't know, man. He changes the dynamic of the team so dramatically.
Listen, come on.
Come on.
Mitchell,
you're taking the ball out of Garland's hands?
Yes.
Okay. Taking the ball out of Mitchell's hands?
Yes.
Just letting those guys spot up.
Mitchell, Garland, LeBron, Mobley, Allen. There's no team in the Eastern Conference that beats that team in the playoff series. Sorry.
All right.
Writing it down.
I'll give it to you. Well, next year, man. Next year is that the team?
Levert, Strus, Sam Merrill. Listen, Sam Merrill, you literally could go friggin' stand in the corner. You're gonna get a lot of threes.
That's right. That's true.
I'll trade. Hey, Lakers, I got a trade proposition for the offseason. George Niang for LeBron James.
Hey, you don't need. LeBron's a free agent. He doesn't have to get traded.
Sign and trade. Sign and trade.
You can just come here of his own volition. Yeah. We'll see.
Hey, real quick, I was looking at this home and away situation. Did you know the Memphis Grizzlies at home are 7-24, but
That's not a good record.
But away they're 15-17. They are 8 more wins away from home than at home. That's crazy.
You wonder what their jaw splits are. Like, did they win a bunch of games on the road during the 5 games that Ja was back?
I don't know.
Look, Memphis.
That's not looking like a good pick. I have not updated our lotto, our picks. I'll have that for our next week's episode.
Yeah, we got to do that because I haven't really thought about it, to be honest with you. So
I'll do that for next week's episode, Mike. I'll have it ready to go.
There we go. We'll have to see what happens. All right. Well, it's good to be back in the saddle on the NBA. I don't know that we're completely back for an hour episode tonight. We're glad to be here, but I think we're going to leave it at this point that we are now. We want to thank you for checking out this NBA episode of the Hoopheads Pod, and barring any unforeseen illnesses, malaria, whatever else could afflict us, we will be back next week with a regular length episode and back to our normal Tuesday night / Wednesday morning time slot. So thanks for checking us out tonight. Really appreciate it. And to everyone out there, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. All right, brother.